Hi everyone, my name is Ardita and I'm from 11 Social Science 2. As you already seen in the thumbnail, I would like to talk to you about what is child labor and why we should against it. My presentation will be divided into 4 parts. I will start with the definition of child labor itself, and then I'll let you know what the causes of child labor. Next, we will jump into the worst forms of child labor, and finally, the solution of the issue. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comment section. Let's start with the definition. The term child labor is often defined as work that deprives children of their childhood, their potential, and their dignity, and that is harmful to physical and mental development. It refers to work that is mentally, physically, socially, or morally dangerous and harmful to children, and or interferes with their schooling by depriving them of the opportunity to attend school, obliging them to leave school prematurely, or requiring them to attempt to combine school attendance with excessively long and heavy work. Something we should consider is not all work done by children should be classified as child labor that is to be targeted for elimination. The participation of children or adolescents above the minimum age for admission to employment in work that does not affect their health and personal development or interfere with their schooling is generally regarded as being something positive. The latest global estimates indicate that the number of children in child labor has risen to 160 million worldwide, an increase of 8.4 million children in the last 4 years. 63 million girls and 19.7 million boys were in child labor globally at the beginning of 2020, accounting for almost 1 in 10 of children worldwide. This report warns that global progress to end child labor has stalled for the first time in 20 years. Now we move to the causes. When we're talking about child labor, it is important to understand it from the perspective of the children, families, and communities themselves. There are some of the root causes which make children particularly vulnerable to child labor. The first factor is poverty. Poverty is certainly the greatest single force driving children into the workplace. When families cannot afford to meet their basic needs like food, water, education, or healthcare, they have no choice but to send their children to work to supplement their household income. Poverty is considered as one of the most important causes of child labor. The second one is lack of access to quality education. The availability and quality of schooling is among the most important factors. School needs to be a welcoming environment with appropriate class sizes, a curriculum designed for the local context, and affordable for rural communities. The third is limited understanding of child labor. The view that work is good for the character building and skill development of children. When families do not understand the dangers of child labor and how this impact on the health, safety, well-being, and future of their child, they are more likely to send their children to work. Some cultural beliefs and social norms can also be drivers of child labor. The fourth is conflicts and mass migration. There is a strong correlation between child labor and situations of conflict and disasters. According to the ILO, children make up more than half of the total number of people displaced by war. These children are particularly vulnerable to forms of exploitations, including child labor, due to an increase in economic shocks, a breakdown of social support, education and basic service, and disruption of child protection service. The incidence of child labor in countries affected by conflict is almost twice as high as the global average. The last factor is natural disasters and climate change. In rural areas, farmers who see their crops destroyed on account of climate changes have no other choice but to send their children out to work. The effects of natural disasters and climate change is one which is becoming of increasing concern. Rural families who depend on reliable seasons for farming are particularly vulnerable to altered patterns of rainfall, soil erosion, or extreme weather. When crops are destroyed or farming land is ruined, families struggle to make a living and are more likely to send their children to work in neighboring farms. And here is the child labor statistics. Next, we will talk about the worst forms of child labor. The worst forms of child labor involves children being enslaved, separated from their families, exposed to serious hazards and illnesses, and or left to fend for themselves on the streets of large cities, often at a very early age. According to Article 3 of ILO Convention number 182, these are the worst forms of child labor. First, all forms of slavery or practices similar to slavery, such as the sale and trafficking of children, debt bondage and serfdom, and forced of compulsory labor, including forced or compulsory recruitment of children for use in armed conflict. Second, the use, procuring, or offering of a child for prostitution, for the production of pornography, or for pornographic performances. Third, the use, procuring, or offering of a child for illicit activities, in particular for the production and trafficking of drugs as defined in the relevant international treaties. And the last, work which, by its nature or the circumstances in which it is carried out, it's likely to harm the health, safety, or morals of children. Now, we are going to talking about the solution of the issue. The first one is free education. Free education holds the key to eliminating child labor. Parents that do not have money for school fees can use this as an opportunity to provide their children with education. It has already proved to be a success in many places around the globe, and with more effort, the cases of child labor will greatly reduce. Midday meal schemes and can also be used as a motivating factor for children whose parents can barely afford a meal to learn. Even if they will be attending school because of the free meals, they will still be able to learn and create a good education foundation for themselves. Second is moral policing. Factory owners, shopkeepers, and industries, among others, should not employ children. The society should be educated on the negative impacts of child labor so that it becomes an issue that is frowned up whenever it occurs. This type of moral policing would act as a deterrent to people who intend to employ children and use them as a source of cheap labor. Many of the ills that go on in the society do so because people turn a blind eye or fail to consider their moral impacts. With this kind of approach, cases of child labor would greatly fall among our communities. The third is create demand for skilled and trained workers. It will lead to adult employment as the demand for skilled labor rises. Establishing skill-based learning centers, vocational training centers, and technical training institutions improves literacy and contributes to the availability of skilled and trained workers in the job market. The fourth is creating awareness about the illegality of child labor can also help in stemming the practice. Parents should be made aware that sending their children to work has legal ramifications, and the law would take its course if they are found to be aiding and abetting this vice. Conducting a campaign to create awareness about its harmful effects would eliminate the practice. The government, together with non-governmental organizations and the civil society, can create a strategy to make such an initiative a success. Last but not least, empowerment for poor people. Poor people are the most affected by child labor. The poor living standards and financial constraints sometimes make them unwilling participants in this vice. Empowering poor people through knowledge and income-generating projects would go a long way in reducing cases of child labor. So, we can conclude that child labor is not just an affront to the rights of child, but also a symbol of a society that has lost its way. We should, therefore, all strive to ensure that the fundamental rights of children are protected and that they are accorded the opportunity to go after their dreams and aspirations. The future is much brighter when the younger generation has a good foundation for success. The innocence of a child should never be taken away for the purpose of making the lives of adults easier. It is both unfair and morally unacceptable. That was the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask in the comment section, and if I made some mistakes, please just correct me in the comment section. Thank you.